Hello Gecko fans, this is Wally Kern with Supreme Gecko. I just went out to YouTube looking up Chondrodactylus, and guess what I found? Lots and lots of videos and no words whatsoever explaining what this genus of gecko is. So today we're going to remedy that. We're going to do a video on Chondrodactylus. Chondrodactylus is a really interesting group of geckos. There's just not a lot of information on the internet about this animal. Let me ask now, if you have a question about Chondrodactylus or you've kept them in the past yourself, leave a comment below and let me know about your experience. Probably the best source of information that you can find is actually on the Supreme Gecko page, and I'll put a link in the description below. And you can go there and take a look at 3 species that we keep. And another good source of information is the Chondrodactylus Facebook group, and I'll give a link in the description on that as well below. So let's start off with the discussion of what Chondrodactylus actually is. If you go to Wikipedia, there's actually 6 different species listed. I believe there's 7 or maybe even more species, and 1 yet defined species. Today we're keeping 3 different Chondrodactylus at Supreme Gecko. One is Chondrodactylus, a more common Chondrodactylus. We're keeping the Chondrodactylus pulitzerae, and we're keeping a species not yet described, and that's Chondrodactylus Kalahari. The one prize of the Chondrodactylus group is the angular fur. All of the species of the Chondrodactylus come out of Africa, and they can all be described as between 5 and 6 inches in length, so a medium-sized gecko. They are nocturnal, but they do come out occasionally during the day, especially if they're being fed. They're not really a fast gecko, but they do have real short bursts of speed and can surprise you if you go into the tank to catch them. They like ambient temperatures in their enclosure of about 75 degrees, and they enjoy a hot spot of about 95 degrees. Their setups can be fairly basic, and we'll show a little bit more of how we keep these animals in just a minute, but they enjoy sand and rocky places where they can hide. If you can set up the enclosure with rocky areas where they can squeeze into little crevices, they'll prefer that the best. In our setups, we prefer sand, preferably Repta sand, but you can use any kind of sand whatsoever, even play sand. In our setup, we like to provide the flower pot saucers overturned with a little notch cut out in the side. Also make sure that you provide a water dish and a food dish for them. You might be asking what their diet is. We find Chondrodactylus eat anything whatsoever. We feed them mealworms, crickets, dubias, everything that we feed them they accept. Breeding these guys is really super easy. Once you get down to a pair of Chondrodactylus, it's as easy as just watching for eggs. And we like to dig through the sand to find those eggs. We take the eggs and place them in a milk cap with a little bit of dry sand, and then place that over a media like perlite or vermiculite that's a little wetter. Incubate at about 80 degrees, and in 2 months you should have baby Chondrodactylus. So let's go ahead and take a look at those Chondrodactylus pulitzerae. Here's our grow out tank of these Chondrodactylus pulitzerae. It's very simple, and it doesn't have to be like this. You can set it up more of a naturalistic enclosure, but we set it up for just raising these animals out. You can see the egg carton stacked up. We have slate or tile in the middle to stabilize the egg cartons. We have the water dish, we have a food dish, and basically that's it. We have FlexWatt running underneath this tank to keep the warm side at around 95 degrees. We actually have this tank on a misting system. Let me see if I can show that real quick. There's the nozzle. And I'm going to go ahead and feed these animals and see if we can get a feeding response from them so that we can get a better picture. I've selected about a dozen dubia roaches here, and you can see the size that these animals will take for their prey. Let's go ahead and feed. Again, I like to feed in these mealworm cups simply because it focuses the food in one place. They know where this cup is. They'll come out in just a second and they'll start feeding. Fairly aggressive feeding manner there. I actually have 4 different Chondrodactylus in this tank that are growing up. What we saw was probably about half the size of an adult. Probably about 2/3 the length, but about half the body weight. These Chondrodactylus can get really heavy for a body weight. I'm going to move this cup a little bit closer to the egg carton and we'll watch them come out. These Chondrodactylus pulitzerae really get along well together in this tank as they're growing up. But in the next few months, we'll really start watching them, and I'll start checking them to make sure that I don't have multiple males. And once I start seeing multiple males, I'll pull them out of this tank. I hope this video convinced you to give Chondrodactylus a try in the future. They are really super cool little geckos, really easy to keep, and super easy to breed. A lot of character with these geckos. If you have any comments whatsoever on Chondrodactylus, make sure that you leave a comment below, and I'll get to those comments as soon as I can. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, gecko fans.